On Overdrive this week, it's another day at work as we take your regular everyday sedan and smash some records. Auto Selector with Bert and all the happenings from the world of auto. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Shireen Bhan. The team at Overdrive firmly believes that it's much more fun and interesting to go fast in a slow car than to go slow in a really fast car. Now, contrary to what you believe, we don't always get our hands on really fast cars, and when we do, we can't drive them as fast because most of the time we're on public roads. But we decided to take a Hyundai Verna to a purpose-built facility to drive it really fast and get this, over 24 hours. Check it out.
At Overdrive, we don't do your usual run-of-the-mill stories, as you could probably tell over the past couple of years. Today, what we're going to show you is an endurance run. We're going to run these two cars over the span of 24 hours, and we're going to test them on various parameters. There's engine oil, there's the fuel, there's the tires, and of course, there's a man himself. So this is like the ultimate test of man and machine. And in the process, we're going to try and break a few records.
To be the best, you have to beat the best. The best happens to be the Overdrive team from 10 years ago, and the only standing member of that team happens to be Bert.
10 years on, how does it feel?
Well, Jamshed, that feeling, I mean, it's a very proud moment, because even a decade later, those records that we set, they haven't been broken, or no one's even come close to those records in the past, in our history. So yes, it's a moment of great pride. I'm truly overwhelmed because 10 years on, we're here and we're trying to establish or rather rewrite history books. So yes, I don't know, I'm totally overwhelmed about this, and I think we've got a lot of surprises in store. We're very gung-ho about this. I think the energy is high right now. I know we're going to do this. We're going to establish a new set of records for the history books. We're going to get our name, stamped all over again in history books. So, God, I think I'm just talking too much. But yeah, I'm very excited to see this. To just see us fly off the starting line.
High-speed endurance runs cannot be carried out on normal roads for obvious reasons. It would be irresponsible and dangerous, and stupid. So we are at the Vehicle Research and Development Establishment in Ahmednagar, the country's most comprehensive vehicle testing facility. The 4.2-kilometer high-speed track isn't an oval, but more of an irregular pentagon with 4 steeply banked corners that allow you to maintain high speeds continuously over a lap. To break the records, we enlisted 2 brand new 2014 Hyundai Vernas, 1 petrol and 1 diesel. The Verna is by far the most powerful car in its category, but it also happens to be one of the most efficient. This combination of power and economy is just what we needed on a challenge like this. We also needed a set of tires that could handle considerable and unceasing abuse, which is why JK Tyres' accomplished Vectra was called into play. Running the speeds we intended for 24 hours straight meant massive stresses on the engines. Both cars would be sitting at the top of their rev ranges with no mercy being shown whatsoever. High-quality engine oil was a must, which is why we replaced the stock engine oil with fully synthetic 0W40 oil from Mobil 1. Besides the fresh tires and oil, the cars we ran were completely in factory spec. No weight reduction, no power boosting, and no rework suspension. Not even a roll cage. We simply belted up, turned on the aircon, and drove as fast as we could. Like any 24-hour race, we intended to drive in shifts. Simple math revealed that 2-hour stints in 2 cars would be too much for 6 drivers in the Overdrive team to handle. We needed 4 more drivers, so we decided to get 4 of the best. Raymond Banerjee is one of the most gifted drivers Indian racing has seen, who now works closely with JK's racing team. Arman Ibrahim needs no introduction. He is one of India's most accomplished racing drivers and currently races overseas in the FIA GT1 Championship. Chitesh Mandori and Vishnu Prasad are 2 rising stars in the Indian racing scene, with Chitesh having graduated from karting to Formula BMW, while Vishnu is the current Formula BMW champion who also just bagged a Formula 3 test. As for us, Bert, Shumi, Rishad, Alan, Hallie and myself would take turns over the next 24 hours. The records standing as of now, set by an energetic Team Overdrive in 2003 were as follows. We knew we had a work cut out and it would be an uphill task, but seeing the kind of drivers and the car we had, we were confident that we'd make it. Well, it was time to go break some records as we got Dr. Manmohan Singh, the director of the VRD, to flag off both the cars. The two cars were set off with a time span of 50 seconds between them so that they didn't get into each other's way. The 24-hour run began exactly at 12:24 p.m. The drivers were split into two teams, with Rayo heading the petrol and Arman in charge of the diesel.
I started behind Rio, so I think we got a pretty decent start. In the beginning we pushed a bit, and after that we just did it more for like a fuel savers run, like just got to one pace and stayed in fifth gear in the diesel car and managed to get consistent lap times and 2.5 hours. Got quite a few laps done, used mileage to the max, and yeah, it was a good first stint. I mean, it kept us on our toes also because these ovals are quite interesting, quite bumpy. It was good fun. I had a good time.
Start was pretty straightforward. The first few laps we just got settled in, and then once we were settled in, we were going a little bit faster. Initially we were going in fourth gear and fifth gear. Once the mileage started becoming an issue, I started going all around in fifth gear only. The focus changed a little bit more to saving fuel.
Luckily with the diesel, the pace is very similar, but we can run a lot longer, you know, yeah, we can still run at a good pace, manage good lap times, and run for about an hour or 45 minutes longer. So that saves us another one pit stop or maybe two.
Soon we had already smashed the first record of reaching the 100km mark by a massive 6 minutes. Things were looking good. Since except Bert, it was the first time for all of us at the VRD track, it was agreed upon that the racer boys would set the hot laps while we'd hold the pace steady in our stints. By the end of our first stint, all the drivers had acclimatized to the track and the Overdrive team was clocking times as fast as the racing drivers.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot more interesting than what I expected. It's very bumpy in the first corner, second corner and the last corner. So especially in the first corner you go up on the bank and then you have to come down if you want to avoid these two really harsh bumps. And similarly you need to take a little weird line in the second corner and the last corner. Third corner is really nice. We are doing about 175 in the middle of the corner, at least in the morning. I'm sure in the evening it will be much faster. So very interesting, especially when you go up high on the bank. It's a good experience.
Well, the track's really interesting. I mean, obviously it's an oval with 4 corners. The first 2 are quite bumpy, but quite quick as well. You come up long straights and the long bankings. They're quite steep, but very interesting. A couple of different lines, but I think in the long haul it's better to start on top and come down low and then get back up so you avoid the bumps and take care of the car for the long period of time. The last 2 corners are much simpler, much faster, and it is a lot of fun. High speed, you're doing about 180 plus on the straights, and probably now at night you're doing close to 200, I guess. When you're entering the corners at about 170, 180, so it's really good fun.
Back in 2003, we had a proper fuel bowser and had wasted just 9 minutes in the pits over the entire 24 hours. However, today, no oil company is permitted to fund or be part of such an exercise, which is why we had to do it the old-fashioned way, with a jerry can. As a result, even though every single one of the team were doing their part, our pit stops were taking an awful amount of time. A bank course should replicate a never-ending straight, but this one had a few nasty bumps mid-corner. Fortunately, the 2014 Verna has much improved suspension control and a stiffer steering, which boosted confidence over these bumps. All in all, we made about 4 tire swaps over the 24 hours, including swapping a good tire from the petrol to the faster diesel. To the JK's credit, they handled the abuse we threw at them exceedingly well, and we didn't have a single tire failure.
We did run into some tire wear issues in the night. Primarily the problem is that the banks are not flat, so you're having to drive down the bank and back up the bank to avoid the really bad bumps to keep the speeds up. So what the tire is doing is it's climbing onto its sidewall as it climbs up onto the bank, and that's rubbing the sidewall out. It's not supposed to be in contact with the road. But to the tires' credit, they're holding up really well. And what we've done is we've switched from the high impact area, which is the front right, to the rear left. And I think that should more or less solve the problem.
The diesel was just as quick but had an extra sixth gear and was considerably more efficient. It was the diesel then that was going to break the record for us. And just then, unexpectedly, the petrol Verna came into the pits with a problem.
Well, as you can see, we've had our first glitch. Now this is part and parcel of the game. With the petrol car, we've had a problem which seems to look like something to do with the fuel pump. Or maybe it's a fuel pump, I'm not really sure. But we got the mechanics checking it out, and but we've already set a fairly decent pace since the morning, so I don't think this should be a problem. Hopefully we'll just get it running in due time, and we'll be on our way. And I think, yeah, well, this is just part and parcel of the game. You just have to roll with it. We've got one car. The diesel car is still on course. It's about 9 hours since we've been driving, so, well, not even halfway mark, but just going to get to checking car out.
Thankfully, it wasn't much of a problem and the Hyundai mechanics were able to fix it in a jiffy.
We have a go, and hopefully we are still on track.
Driving at speeds exceeding 150 kph over a span of 2 hours is an exhaustive task, and the concentration required is massively draining. So drivers needed to get as much rest as they could between their driving stints. Even the other team members needed to get their rest, and of course, like most endurance events, the luxuries of a hotel isn't something that you can expect.
On an oval, it's more mental, your mental fitness as well. I mean, it's very easy to lose your concentration here, especially for everyone who's generally driving. Driving 2.5 hour stints, and at night is going to be a real test, not to lose your concentration or not to doze off.
A lot of the jobs that we've got to do on this 24-hour record run, well, we've got to do it by ourselves. So while we're also driving, we're also managing the teams, we're also managing fueling, we're also managing the tires. All of these aspects, we're looking into it ourselves. So there isn't a pit crew like you would see in Formula 1 or any professional motorsport. This is just us, bunch of editorial team members, and of course the drivers who come down to help us with this effort. That's handling everything else as well.
Past the halfway stage, we felt newfound respect for 24-hour endurance races, the likes of Le Mans and Bathurst, because this was arguably one of the most exhausting yet satisfying exercises we had carried out. We also understood the importance of having great partners during an endurance run. The way the JK Vectras had held up and the way the engine showed amazing durability thanks to the Mobil 1 oil was commendable. By sunrise, we decided to reduce speeds to help the tires last the distance. With 6 hours left to go, we were already on course to break the record with time to spare. As we lowered the pace, the diesel was indicating a phenomenal 14.5 kilometers to the litre despite holding about 140 kilometers per hour, while the petrol wasn't much lower at 11 kilometers per litre.
To be honest, it's not been an easy task, not this time, not the last time around also, because driving on a track 24 hours non-stop with very little sleep and of course a lot of fatigue setting in through that just by staying awake. It's an extremely challenging an experience that we are going through at this moment. I think breaking the record is on. Well, one, because that's what we're trying to do. The second, we do have a much faster car than we had last time, so it should not be too difficult to break the record. Third, the only real hassle is that we are taking longer to fill the cars with fuel during the pit stops than we did last time. But I don't think it's an unsurmountable problem. We are getting faster with every pit stop, and we have a much faster car. I think we're going to break this.
The cars are much faster in the evening. The grip is a little bit more at this point of time. So that's the time when we really enjoy driving the car. And important thing is to keep our focus up.
Yeah, it seems a lot quicker now, so I am looking to drive now in a couple of hours. We started off when it was quite hot, but the night session should be fun. Hopefully the bank's a bit lit. And try and maximize the amount of time on track.
It had been an absolutely grueling 24 hours and every single team member had strived towards setting the new records. Was it worth it then? Hell yes. Sorry Overdrive from 10 years ago, but your records have been broken and we've added a new one for breaching the 3,500 kilometer mark. The diesel Verna ran 520.6 kilometers more than the previous record of 3,083 kilometers and achieved a new record of 3,603.6 kilometers over the span of 24 hours. It was time now for some well-deserved celebrations.
Hyundai congratulates Overdrive and its team of drivers on this record. 24 hours endurance test drive is a big challenge, a challenge of speed, time and distance. And we are happy that Hyundai, the 2014 all-new Verna, was able to make it.
Well, records are meant to be broken, and since no one attempted to break ours, we decided to do it ourselves. As you can see, Team Overdrive is constantly setting itself up for crazy challenges. What next, you ask? You'll only have to stay tuned to find out. Time for a break. When we return, we answer your queries on Auto Selector. Bert will join us, so come right back.